is so much pressure on one person. Like I'm supposed to create your happiness. Are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah.
Right? We are in charge of our own happiness.
Yeah. 100%.
You agree with that?
I do. Yeah. I mean, you've got to bring something to the table. Otherwise, why would a woman find you attractive? Why would a man find a woman who brings no energy to the relationship attractive? Physical attraction, maybe, but there's so much more than just physical attraction. And I mean, I'm not attracted to a woman in any form who can't bring some form of energy or own something to the table, and vice versa with women and men. So yeah, we have to bring something to the table. Otherwise, there's no point to joining a partnership,
Right.
Whether it's romantic or a career. There's no point to doing that.
Yeah, so true. Okay, next little point I wanted to hit on. What do you feel, and maybe we've already kind of been talking about it a little bit, but what do you feel with the men that you work with is the number one struggle that men are having today? What's like, do you have
I mean, there's a lot. I would say a lot of what I run into is confidence issues. Like I'm not confident with women, or I'm not confident with asking for a raise, or I'm not confident with whatever, any number of things. And I think the challenge with confidence is that we live in a time in the history of the world, which is incredible. We have technology and we have comforts and we have modern technology and medicine and health. It's amazing. It's amazing. But what it's done is it's stripped away any hardship that we have to face in this world, mentally, physically, emotionally, and we don't have to push ourselves in any capacity. I get into this conversation a whole lot, is the participation trophy thing. It's like we give out our children participation trophies for getting 29th place, and we expect that somehow miraculously they're going to begin to like push themselves. Why would they?
Why?
They're not going to push themselves.
Yeah.
They're only going to push themselves as hard as they can earn the reward. And if the reward comes without pushing, even better. You know, if you're warm, what do? You turn on the air conditioning. If you're hot, what do? You turn on the heater. If you need to get from point A to point B, you drive in this climate controlled vehicle, right? If you need a medical help or an emergency, what do? Well, you run over to the doctor's office, which is across the street, or you call an ambulance that actually comes and picks you up. Like there's so many little comforts that we have, and we've stripped away all of the hardship in our lives. And because we've stripped away the hardship in our lives, we feel dissatisfied with who we are as men because we haven't proven ourselves.
Right?
Like we've never been in the position where we've had to actually test our mettle and resolve. And so guys are like, well, I don't have confidence with women. Okay, well, when's the last time you approached a woman? I don't know, I'm scared. You got to earn it. Or I don't know how to talk to my boss about a promotion. You just go talk to him about a promotion. Well, I don't know. That's because this individual has never had a difficult conversation in his life because his parents aren't willing to have that conversation because they're scared. Their bosses, their teachers are worried about offending somebody, so they don't have difficult conversations. Like we're just not equipped to deal with hardship. And because we're not putting ourselves in those situations, we're not earning the level of confidence that only comes through the effort and the consistent action of doing the thing that you don't have confidence in.
Oh, I really like that. I had never thought of that perspective before, with not having those hardships to push your way through, and you're like, I did it, I accomplished this.
I mean, you think about hundreds and thousands of years ago, men in particular had rites of passages. Like you weren't actually called a man until you put yourself in a hardship that you could literally die from. Mm-hmm. Now, some of that could have been as simple as like a circumcision. Others, they go out into the wilderness for weeks at a time and they have to kill an animal with their bare hands. I mean, I don't know all the rituals, but only then do they get to come back to the village, and the village then recognizes them as men. We don't have that now. Like unless you are in maybe some sort of competitive sports in high school or college, or even after college, the military has some of that, of course. But for the most part, there is no rite of passage that says, congratulations, you've transformed from boy to man. Mm-hmm. I look at my boys. I've got 3 boys and one daughter, 1 girl. And they're boys. Like they don't have any accountability. They don't have any responsibility. Yeah, they've got to take out the trash and do some dishes and practice their piano. But at the end of the day, the burden of responsibility falls upon me to ensure, as the father and the man of the house, that actually gets done. But what happens is now we have, and our mutual friend Matthew Arrington actually does a lot of work in this area, is that we have these 30, 35, maybe even 40-year-old men who by all measurements are men, except for they're still living in mommy and daddy's basement playing video games because they've never taken on any level of accountability and responsibility for their lives. Mm-hmm. That is imperative that we teach our children, boys and girls, responsibility, accountability. There's circumstances that come with your actions, positive and negative. It's critical that we teach our children that, but that's not present as much as it used to be. And it's creating some real challenges.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, you look at just our school system, you look at the big, no bullying campaigns.
Yes.
Do, right? And it's like, I've heard stories where they call the parents in, your child's doing this, and the parents do absolutely nothing.
Right. And then if you teach your son to stand up for himself and punch that kid in the nose, he gets in trouble.
He's in trouble, right? I love it. I interviewed a therapist, and he told me, well, and I don't know if you've read this book with your guys. It's, oh my word, it's going to slip my mind. I will think of it. Anyway, it's a book on basically the rite of passage almost of men. Okay. And so we discussed that book, this therapist, and he goes, when I have a parent call me and set up a time for their child to come in because the child's being bullied, he goes, I have to have the parents come in first and say, I need to make sure you're okay with what I'm going to tell your child to do.
Interesting. Yeah.
Because I'm going to tell your child to fight back.
Right.
Because
we should do.
Yeah, we're teaching them to take away their own power. You're not allowed to stick up for yourself. Go tell an adult, right? And that's what is that going to do for him? Mm-hmm. Take away that confidence that we're struggling with.
Yep, exactly.
Right?
Yep, exactly.
And I think that's so powerful if we can teach that to our kids through however way. If we weren't taught it, you weren't taught it, you had to discover it, right?
Right.
There is
one of the things that I talk a lot about is my job as a father. I mean, that's one of my primary responsibilities. And I always say it's my job to render myself obsolete. That's my job. Like, I'm not raising children. I'm raising, hopefully at some point, fully functioning, self-sustained adults.
Right.
So if I treat my children in a way that keeps them as children, whether that's to satisfy my own desire to be loved or my own inadequacies or fear of putting something out into the world or doing something that they may not like, or having to have a difficult conversation, then I'm actually being very selfish by not teaching my kids to take care of their own stuff. The other day I was out, I told my son to take out the trash, and he couldn't reach the trash can and get the thing in there. So he came back and he's like, I can't do it, Dad. I'm like, I didn't tell you to come in and tell me you can't do it. I told you to take the trash out and put it in the trash can. He's like, well, I don't know how. I'm like, well, then don't come in here until you get it done. Figure it out. And so I stood at the window, and he went out. He was upset and he was crying. He's like, I don't know. I stood at the window and I watched him, and he put the trash can down, and he pulled this little bench over, and he climbed up the bench, got the thing, put it in, and came in as he's marching in, his chest held high. I could have went out and did it for him. It would have taken 10 seconds. Yeah. Instead, it took 10 minutes for him to figure out how to do it. But now he's he's more equipped to be able to deal with his own stuff.
Yeah.
To figure out his own way. I don't have to do it for him. Now he knows he can do it.
Oh, yeah. You're a great dad.
Well, sometimes, not always. I try to be, but I'm not always a great dad.
Well, we're all perfectly imperfect, right?
Yes, this is true.
Yes. So, okay, the book I was just looking up so I could tell you. Have you heard or read the book Wild at Heart?
Yeah, in fact, I've got it right here.
Okay, so we read this book in with my membership with the ladies. And, of course, it's hard. It's like when women tell men or their husbands, oh, you should read this book, their guard goes up because it's like, she's going to want to change me. This book is what I need to do to change. Would you put a shout out to these men?
Yeah. I mean, this is
for them.
This is a great book. In fact, I'm going to have, the reason I have it out right here, so it's funny you even mention it, is I'm actually going to be interviewing the author on Monday.
Oh, you are?
John Eldridge. Yeah.
Awesome.
The reason that it's such a powerful book is like for me, for example, I was raised primarily by my mother. So a lot of feminine energy in my life and the way that I was raised and the way that we had the conversations, and bless my mother's heart, she did the best she could as a woman raising a young man. But at the end of the day, there's no way that a woman can fully raise a boy on her own to become a man. Like there's just certain things that she can never talk to him about, never teach him, never help him understand, and never communicate to him. Same way I can never fully raise a daughter to be the kind of woman that she has the potential of becoming. It takes both a man and a woman. And I realize there's situations where marriages don't work out and there's extenuating circumstances. But my mom, fortunately, she always had enough insight and knowledge and understanding about this principle that we're talking about now that she recognized that she needed to get me involved in sports. And that's how I was able to get exposed to some of the masculine energy and the way that we communicate with men and the way men behave and the way we compete, and taking these masculine traits that at the time were raw and then using them and finding a way to harness them to produce a productive outcome. And the book, Wild at Heart, really talks about, I'm sure, a lot of the things that you've been experiencing as a man in your life, but you can't quite put your finger on it. You can't quite understand why you don't feel satisfied or why you don't feel as manly maybe as you should, and you don't know what you're doing or how to do it. I mean, it's just an incredible book. So I am really excited to interview John, and then I've got to read this book this weekend to make sure, since it's been a little while since I last read it.
Oh, I've read it now a couple of times. I finally, hun, really, to my husband, I promise you will love it. It's going to validate you so much. Finally, he listened to the Audible, and now he's like, oh my word,
Yeah.
And we have 4 sons, so I have 1 daughter.
Oh yeah.
So I am like, there's masculine energy all around here. And I'm like, okay, God created the world, and there's snakes and there's bears and there's sharks, and like he's meant to have adventure. That's why these boys, they crave that adventure and to go out and discover the world. And often, which I'm sure will kind of end towards this point, the world is doing a really good job at emasculating men.
Yes.
And masculating women.
Yep, I agree. So John Eldredge is actually the author of one of my favorite quotes. It's in this book, in fact, and he says, deep in his heart, every man longs for a battle to fight, an adventure to live, and a beauty to rescue. And if you look around in society, to your point, I think for the most part, that's gone. I mean, a battle to fight, what battle? What battle do we have? We've got wars and we've got things like this, but there's not really a whole lot we're fighting for. An adventure to live. I mean, what? You graduate college and you go spend the next 40, 45 years in a cubicle in the corner, punching in a computer, doing menial work. That's not adventurous. And then a beauty to rescue. I've got my wife, and I feel like she's my beauty to rescue. But I think a lot of guys just kind of feel lost in their marriages and kind of feel like it's just the status quo, and this is what you're supposed to do, and the energy and the spark and the love and the passion is not there anymore. So this book talks a lot about how to find that and regain that in your life.
Yeah. Men out there, if you listen to this, it is so worth the read. It's so worth it. It's for them, and it is true. I mean, that's one of the big concepts in my program, which it's called Taming Jane Academy. And that's, off of the Tarzan and Jane story, and how Jane, after she met Tarzan, she decided, I'm going to help him. I'm going to save and civilize him. And how we often do that in our marriages. We end up trying to change our man to fit what we think is the role he should be in. And, how in a way that's emasculating, that we are emasculating our men in not just what we say and do, through our actions, through our body language. And I think in order for a man to do what you say, protect, provide, and preside, he needs that confidence. He doesn't need us always questioning his competence.
Yeah, definitely.
Does
Definitely.
that resonate with you?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was pulling up a quote to your point about just society in general. So this is C.S. Lewis. He says, "We make men without chests and expect from them virtue and enterprise. We laugh at honor and are shocked to find traitors in our midst." it's really interesting what society in general is doing to men. And then we have the audacity to ask, where are all the real men? It's kind of interesting.
Right. Well, I won't worry about trying to find it right now. There is a stat on the most popular Disney shows, which are like the sitcom type Disney, how often they make a man look stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Yeah.
literally like, I want to say like every 3.4 minutes.
Oh, is it that often? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they compared it to like sometime in the 60s, it was like 3 times an episode.
Hmm.
And now it's every 3.4 minutes. And this is what our kids are seeing.
Yeah.
Right. And so that role model of a man standing up and being a man is not there.
Yep.
Letting him be connected to his masculine energy. I love how he talks about it in that book, Wild at Heart. Are men in church, are we really sitting there, in church congregations being men? Like, I know men that like, I just can't sit here for an hour and a half.
Every man is like that.
Right?
Of course.
And they think something's wrong with them.
We do that. We not only do we do that in a spiritual religious setting, but we also do that in our education system.
Yes.
I've got my 9-year-old and my 6-year-old, and they're boys. They want to come, or they want to roughhouse. They want to put on football pads. They want to go roll around the dirt, jump on the trampoline. I've got a little gym out back. My oldest son is always, can I go out and work out? And then we put them, something else you'd be really interested in is Dr. Leonard Sachs. He's a, I don't know if he's a psychologist, psychiatrist, he's something. And he wrote several books, but 2 of the books are Boys Adrift and Why Gender Matters. And he talks about how the education system and society in general is stacked against boys, mm-hmm. and what we can do to help combat that a little bit.
I agree with that totally. I should share with you the interview that I had with my one guy. You would love it.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, send me the link.
I will. So to kind of wrap things up, I want to kind of just end with this question, because I feel like it will empower the women of the husbands that are going to resonate with this. Obviously, we as women are becoming more masculine. When I'm doing my work and I'm sitting here interviewing right now, I go into a very much masculine role. We've all, like you said, we both have feminine and masculine traits about us. But our husbands fell in love with our feminine. Mm-hmm. What does your wife's feminine energy do for you? Why is it so important that women are connected, or able to reconnect themselves with that feminine energy?
I mean, there's a lot to this question. Number one, it actually makes me feel important, because it makes me feel like the masculine energy I possess is needed, right? Because I see her feminine side. I'm like, okay, she can appreciate my masculine side. She can appreciate my aggression, or maybe need for dominance or power or assertiveness. She can appreciate that. When she's trying to jockey for that position, it makes me feel less manly, less masculine, essentially. So there's definitely value in that, but it's always nice. And I know this is going to sound strange, but I enjoy the presence of a woman in general, not just romantically, but I enjoy feminine energy, so in having this conversation, for example, you can see that, or just having a dialogue with your mother or sister, or a friend who happens to be a woman. Like, just enjoying that feminine energy is, I think, highlights and underpins what our role is on this planet as men, and makes us feel appreciated. Essentially, it makes us feel appreciated, that we know we're wanted, that we know we're needed, and that we actually have a role to play in society.
Oh, I love that. That just totally validates what I try to work with women on. Let's connect back to those feminine traits that feed our man. It totally did you, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, Ryan, this conversation's been great. I'm so excited to share this with anyone who's willing to listen. I want to thank you from myself and from everyone for your service in the military.
My honor.
I recently just watched the Netflix show, and I wish I could remember. You'll know what it is. The one where they share what happens when a soldier dies and they bring him
Mm,
home.
mm.
It's an hour-long kind of show.
I don't know if I've seen it.
Oh, it's I'll email you the name of it. I
Yeah,
can't.
I'll have a look. Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And when I got done with that, I went, okay, anytime I run into anybody in uniform, I'm just going to go up and shake their hand and say thank you.
That's good. That is much appreciated for sure.
Yes. So thank you for your service. And then thank you for your service for men. I applaud you for seeing a need and finding a weakness in yourself and turning it around to a positive and a passion, because that resonates so well. And that's kind of similar to what I've done. I was the epitome of the intense woman. And I, have this story that I was like, ladies, there's a better way, right? And we just want to share those stories. And I think that's the most powerful, is when we've lived that, we've been there, we've done it, and like, we're going to break through. So I applaud you for breaking through. I would love for you to share really quick how people can get a hold of you, a little bit about Order of Man and the Iron Council, what the difference is or whatever. Share about that. That'd be great.
So Order of Man, you can find us anywhere. I mean, orderofman.com is our headquarters. Wherever you're on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, whatever, it's all at Order of Man. So we're really easy to find that way. The most active places are our Facebook group, which is reserved for men. The dynamic changes, the conversation changes when men and women enter the mix, and there's a place and time for that, but not in the conversations that we're having. So it is reserved for men exclusively. We've got about 38,000 members of that group now, which is really cool to see that grow. That one's really loosely based. It's just basically conversations and topics that anybody can feel free to post in there, and they get hundreds of comments on their questions. It's pretty cool. It's a great resource. The Iron Council is kind of the next level, if you will. Again, it's reserved exclusively for men, but if they want more guidance and structure and direction and accountability from other guys, and challenges and assignments and topics and conversations, one-on-one type conversations with me and some of our team leaders in the organization, then the Iron Council is the route, kind of the next level, like I said.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I know you are so busy.
Yes.
And so the fact that you were able to fit this into your schedule really meant a lot to me. So I really appreciate it. And once again, thank you for what you're doing. It's so needed.
Yeah, I was looking forward to our conversation. So I thank you for what you're doing as well. I think between both of us and other men and women who are going to step up into some of these roles, I think we can change a lot of lives, and that's what I'm excited about. So I honor you for doing that as well on your side of things.
Well, thank you. And I look forward to our paths crossing again.
I'm sure they will.
It'll be great. Well, thanks, Ryan. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Have a great day.